Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
Thanks to Mulligan's. With 17 stores across the southeast, there's a Mulligan's pharmacy near you.
Good morning and welcome to the programme. Hope you had a good weekend. We have a lot of texts and comments to come to, and we will come to those shortly. Firstly, I want to say hello to Paul Cullen, health editor with the Irish Times. Good morning, Paul.
Morning, Damien.
Paul, we'll come straight to you because I know you're a busy buchel this morning regarding the story you have on the front page of the Irish Times. The Health Service Executive has reached an agreement with a US testing lab to process the massive backlog of smear tests in the cervical check screening programme. We're going to have some women who are still waiting for their tests to be analysed. Tell us, what is the latest regarding this deal with Quest Diagnostics?
Yeah, I mean, Quest is one of 3 labs that have carried out smear tests for the cervical check programme. You know, there's been huge controversy around the programme ever since the Vicky Phelan case in April of last year. The revelation that an audit had been carried out and women hadn't been told about it. Subsequent controversy in politics and in health circles and an increase in litigation. And partly as a result of all this, there's also developed a huge backlog of over 80,000 women who are waiting to hear the results of their smear tests. Now, that broke down between the different labs in different ways, but another lab called MedLab, which is based in Ireland but owned by an Australian company, stopped taking new smear tests last May the 1st because it couldn't deal with the huge numbers on its backlog. And it's concentrating on clearing that backlog. And since then, new tests that have gone into the system have just been put in storage. And meanwhile, Quest, which has a number of labs in the US which has been processing slides, they entered into negotiations with the HSE. Finally, after 7 months of negotiations, a deal has been done. We don't know how much it's costing, but under that deal, testers at 4 additional sites run by Quest in the US will process the extra capacity needed for the Irish screening service, and hopefully this will result in a reduction in the huge waiting times that we've seen. Now, it won't help a lot of women outside Dublin who are on the waiting list for the MedLab screen test, because they're trying to go through their backlog, but they've still, as I said, they've 55,000 still in that backlog, and some women are still having to wait up to 33 weeks there. But women who are on the other 2, whose smear tests are being tested by the other 2 labs, should in a period of time get down to the normal sort of processing period of 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, as you say in your figures there today, like the MedLab has reduced its backlog, it says, by about 11,000. That's only from approximately 80,000, we'd say, down to 65,000. And we've had women on this programme. We'll have more women on now in a few minutes talking about this and the worry and the fear and the nervousness they'd have about this. Effectively, the minister created this by his tweet that famous night when he said he was going to bring in all these new retesting, and without going through, I suppose, the processes. It looks like we're probably going to be paying a lot of money for this.
Oh, I'd say so, because the handling of Irish smear tests is a very contentious issue in the industry now because of the level of litigation around the alleged misdiagnosis of smears, and therefore, and also because of changes within the industry as well. Because one of the difficulties the HSE had was that it couldn't find any lab internationally that had extra capacity for smear testing, because the technology is changing and labs are moving over to a new type of testing called HPV testing. And therefore they're running down their sections that provided the traditional form of testing. Now, HPV testing is planned in Ireland, but it's been delayed because of this backlog, as you said. The backlog, you could say, is about 2/3 due to the decision made last year for free out-of-cycle tests. It was made by Minister Harris. His defence is that he was responding to concern among women as a result of the issues which has arisen around the programme, and he felt it was the only right thing to do. There are disputes about what kind of advice he received before he made that decision, but certainly the advice he received after it was made was that it was the wrong one, and it would have catastrophic effects on the programme, which it has had.
Yeah, like as you say, the HSE has declined to say how much the agreement will cost. Like, I presume if anybody's involved in Quest Diagnostics and their financial side of things, they'd basically be able to ask or demand whatever price they want, because they know the government is really, really caught between a rock and a hard place. The state has nowhere to go on this, and it has to go somewhere. So whatever figures do come out subsequently on this, is it going to work, Paul, do you think? Is this going to reduce the backlog and put the whole smear testing system back on some kind of an even keel within 6 months?
Yeah, the HSE certainly hopes that it will. I don't think they're out of the woods yet. There are a number of issues still around there. Obviously, one is the size of the backlog. The second is the recent court case in which the High Court judge found that screeners have to have absolute confidence in their work before they give an all clear on a sample. Now, the only way that is being appealed, that judgment, but for the moment that is the law. And the only way I think that screening labs can deal with that is by spending more time analysing slides to make sure they get it right. So that means slower throughput, slower processing ability. And so therefore it will take even longer than normal for these backlogs to clear. There is also, there are still questions about the economic viability of the screening. If there are going to be, as I report today, there are nearly 100 claims made against the cervical screening programme. Half of those are already in train in the courts. All of that is adding up to the bills for screening, and certainly there are senior figures in Irish medicine who are saying, is it worth it? Should we just throw in the towel because it's pressures on the system? But at least this has steadied the boat for now, and we'll see how we go. Certainly, if they introduce HPV testing, which has higher degrees of accuracy and is at the cutting edge of modern practice, that might further stabilise the boat. But it's not clear. It is apparent that that's not going to be introduced as it was planned this year, but perhaps it might happen next year. Okay,
Paul Cullen, health editor of the Irish Times, thank you for joining us this morning. Very much appreciated. If you have any views or thoughts on this, please give us a shout on 083 3333 975, 083 3333 975. You can call Laura on 051 846 123. I think we've got Liz Murphy on the line there. Are you there, Liz?
I am, Damien. Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Liz. Liz, we highlighted your case on May the 9th. At that stage, you were 7 months waiting for your smear results. Are you still waiting?
I surely am. I still haven't heard anything. Some friends of mine, we were all talking about it, and they've had their results back. I'm still waiting. 8 months, it's just not right, Damien. And plus, as my friends had said to me that we're waiting, do we believe the results? How can you believe waiting 7 or 8 months for results that they are correct? How do you know? Personally, I think people's faith in the results has been lost because you are waiting so long for it. I don't know how other women feel about that. But if you have to wait 7 or 8 months, how do you know that the test that was done is correct? It hasn't gone off.
And talking to other women and friends of yours, obviously there's quite a few women in the same boat.
Yeah. There are, yeah. Some of them have had results before that had said that there may be an issue, but thank God mine have never come back that there was an issue. But what about those people that are waiting 7 or 8 months? I haven't been, as I said before, to my doctor to chase this up because your doctor can't do any more. When you call the number, it tells you that there's 33 weeks waiting time to get the results, but it's still not good enough. Mine, I didn't go and get a test done because of a fear that I had with the test. Mine was the smear test that is done every 4 years, or how often it's done. So I didn't jump on the bandwagon and get it done because of the results that had come out previously with Vicky Phelan. I'd waited, and I thought by waiting until November I would be fine. In the past it had been 4 or 5 weeks that you would be waiting, but now 8 months, it's just not right, Damien.
No, it's not right at all. And are you worried?
Not particularly, because what can I do? There's nothing I can do about it. And then when the results come back, like those other ladies said to me, do you believe them? What's the point in worrying? I mean, there's so much stuff going on out there. Why would you worry? If it comes back and there is an anomaly with it, then I will worry. But why would I worry now? There's enough stuff to be worrying about.
Yes.
Without worrying about that. Do you know what I mean? You could spend your whole life worrying about stuff, but in this instance, I just hope and pray that there isn't anything wrong when I do get the results back. But then, even do I believe the results when they come back?
Of course, yeah. Liz, keep in touch. We're going to get a few more women on the line now, so keep in touch and let us know how things are. And thank you so much.
When I get them.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Liz. Thank you very much. Any other women out there who have experiences with this system, call us, text us 083 3333 975. You can call us on 051 846 123. A lady has texted in to say, good morning, Damien. I paid €100 for a smear test. I only had to wait 2 weeks for the results. It's terrible that I had to pay, but I don't believe in the free test. It's a story which is ongoing. It's a story which affects people and affects women in lots of different ways. I think we have Katrina English on the line there. Are you there, Katrina?
I am. Good morning, Damien.
Good morning, Katrina. Thank you for joining us this morning. Katrina, you're co-founder of Manana Déise. That's the local women's healthcare support network. You spoke on the programme on February the 19th about lots of women within the group having concerns about not getting results back. What is the situation regarding yourself?
It's still the same. We have women waiting 6 months plus for results. Very worried and concerned, especially for those who have underlying issues. Having to wait that extra time is nerve-wracking.
And if people have money, they can go private and get results within 2 weeks. But a lot of women just can't afford to do that, can they?
They can't, but I'm finding women who even can't afford it are making it their business to go and get it done privately because they're so worried. And that's the big, if you can't afford something and you have to get it done, it's a huge stress on your own self and your household. If you go private, you're waiting less than 2 weeks for results. So it's like you're wondering why can't everyone have the same standard of health, you know?
And what's your view about the whole thing? Like I said, we spoke to you on February the 19th. You were very upset and annoyed and angry. And now, still in the middle of June, we're still in the same situation for a lot of women.
I was thinking about this morning when I read the article in the Irish Times. I'd like to put a positive spin on it, that at least, hopefully, they're going to help with the backlog and there will be less of a wait. There's 45% of smear tests were already going to America, and now there's another 45%. So that's 90% of our smear tests are being outsourced. Now, hopefully, it's not going to have the same results as we've had the last time. Hopefully, they fixed the issue, and women will get proper care. And I know the 10% that have been left in Ireland are being done in Dublin. We asked for the smear test to be done at home, but they're not. They're just outsourcing again. I hope they can fix this problem by doing this. I know there's 4 more laboratories involved in the outsource. So I'm hoping that they can fix this problem and they will do it to a higher standard, you know?
Yes, very much so. Katrina English, co-founder of Manana Déise, thank you for joining us this morning. Keep in touch, and anybody, thank you, Katrina. Anybody that has stories can get in touch with Katrina through the Facebook page or get in touch with us here on 083 3333 975. We'll have more of your texts and comments coming up. Also, 2 tickets to give away this morning, more next week, for Sarah Outen. She's the keynote speaker for this year's Imrama Festival of Travel Writing. Sarah did an interview on Déise with Marie McCann in May, and she was fabulous on that, and she's a great speaker. The first woman, the youngest person, to row solo across the Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean from Japan to Alaska. She is taking place in the Imrama Festival of Travel Writing. Just text us in what town, or I suppose village, no, it's a town, is the festival taking place. That's 083 3333 975. Back with retailing and Jennifer O'Connell's experience of retailing in Waterford City and County.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
Thanks to Mulligan's. Blue Club rewards from mulliganspharmacy.com. Spend a little to earn a lot.
Every time I think I'm falling, I know you're falling too. There's no doubt you're rolling.
With Damien Tiernan on WLR.
Thanks to Mulligan's. With 17 stores across the southeast, there's a Mulligan's pharmacy near you.
Now, welcome back to the programme. Just to let you know what's coming up later on the programme, we want to hear about how are 9-year-olds, 9 weeks out of school, looming for parents. Are you bored? Are the children bored already? How are you going to keep them busy? Jennifer, how to keep the children busy?
You just say the word school holidays and the fear comes over me. I think every working parent has it. It's just a constant spreadsheet and juggling and pulling in favours and asking people for things and camps. But my kids are into sailing. So whether they want to be or not, they're into sailing, because I figure that's going to solve the problem every summer from now until when they're late teenagers.
So lads,
it's just going to give them something to do.
Yeah, you're heading on around the world cruise, lads. A yacht race. Off you go.
We'll see you in August.
Yeah, we also have Dr. Jeff Plant coming in, GP based at the Kyo practice, all with your health queries. So if you have any questions for Jeff, we also have a very interesting piece from the Holy Ghost home up in the Cork Road. I went there last Friday to talk to people involved with that. People would have this image of the Holy Ghost. If you were bold, you're going to be sent to the Holy Ghost when you were a child. So that's all changed there now. So we've got some people to talk to us there. And Siobhan O'Neill-White will be coming on from mams.ie to talk about holidays for children. We're going to talk briefly now about retail. Jennifer O'Connell, columnist with the Irish Times. Thanks for coming in this morning. You did a massive amount of research on this.
Yeah, we did. We had this huge, it was a 6-month-long project. We called it our Healthy Streets project. And the idea was to look at whether there's a link between the health of a community, the physical and psychological health of a community, and the health of the towns they live in. So we hear a lot about the kind of the decline of the main street and empty units and what does that mean, and people going to out-of-town shopping instead of coming into towns and villages. So we wanted to take that a step further and go, well, is there a link between that, and is there a link between the places that we live and how we are in ourselves? Because we all know you are what you eat, but there's actually a lot of research to say you are where you live as well. So what we did was we used a model developed by the Royal Society for Public Health in the UK called the Health on the High Street model, and they developed a Richter scale where they awarded points for different types of businesses on a main street. So a positive would be like a health club or a gym got, I think, 7 points. A pharmacy got maybe 5 points. But then at the other end of the spectrum, things like bookmakers, they score a negative, off licenses score a negative, and obviously greasy spoons and fast food outlets, they don't contribute to public health necessarily, so they got a negative. So you go along the street with your clipboard, you count up the different types of businesses that there are, and I've been on the road for the last 6 months doing this in different towns, adding up the score and coming to a score that tells you it's not we intentionally didn't do it as a best to worst of, you know, the healthiest town in Ireland versus the unhealthiest, because first of all we only did 10. We took a representative sample of 10 towns and villages, but we wanted to kind of create a model and start a conversation about, when we're planning for our towns and our cities, is this a factor that we should have in mind? Should we be thinking more than just economics and business and creating a busy retail environment? And should we be thinking about the impact that the spaces that we live in have on us as a community?
We will have a series on this during the week. We've been talking to Roddy Keary and different business people around Waterford City and Dungarvan about rates, about the relation between the councils and the retailers and all those type of things. Like pedestrianisation is one of those ongoing things in Kilkenny. I know they're talking about it in a big way. The article that you had in the Irish Times on Saturday, it's 2-3 pages effectively. It's superb article. what did Waterford get? Tell us about Waterford.
Actually, there was good news for Waterford. For once, I'm delighted to be able to give good news to Waterford because, as you know, I'm a local, and a lot of the time when Waterford makes it into the national headlines, it's for the wrong reasons. But Waterford scored 100 overall. Now, it's not on a scale of 1 to 100. The top scoring place was Lahinch in Clare, which got 202, and I'll talk about the reasons for that in a second if you want. But Waterford did the same as Ranelagh, which would be one of the more affluent suburbs in Dublin, and it was well ahead of Stoneybatter, which is kind of a really kind of trendy up and coming place. It scored substantially better than Drogheda, than Thurles, than Bangor, and so of our representative sample, I think it was in joint third place.
Yeah, just like I'm looking at Greystones there in County Wicklow, people would have this image of Greystones as being a really trendy, posh, happy pair type of place to go to, and that got 124. So Waterford got 100, Greystones got 124. So you're saying that on this metrics, on this system of analysing it, Waterford City Centre didn't do too bad at all?
It didn't do too badly. Now, there were obviously some negatives, but we found that things like Waterford has done right. So there's a library just off the main street, and libraries score really high because they're places for people to congregate and develop a sense of community. And obviously one of the metrics that we're looking at is psychological well-being. We're not just talking about physical health. And, you know, we have all the lovely seating in John Roberts Square there. It's paved, it's pedestrianised, so that added some points. The things like the book centre, having an independent bookshop in the middle of town with a cafe in it and a large number of cafes. Because of the way Waterford is developed, it did maybe deceptively well, in that there aren't any pubs in the main shopping area really, other than T&H's, which is kind of off the main shopping area, so that didn't count. Yeah, and pubs are a negative.
Pubs are a negative.
Yeah.
Whereas others would say, like, Egan's used to be there years ago, and like the Ginger Mill is there now.
Yeah.
So why would pubs be a negative?
Yeah, so that was a really interesting, and we had an awful lot of back and forth with our expert panel on whether or not they should be a positive. In fact, in the UK, they rated pubs a positive, but we decided that given Ireland's relationship with alcohol and given the things that we know about how alcohol impacts on mental health, that really it would be irresponsible of us to rate pubs as a positive. So we did rate them as a slight negative.
And yet the restaurant, sorry for interrupting, the food aspect of pubs survive now a lot on food. So
that is a positive. And if a pub is predominantly a place that people come to eat more so than go to drink, then that is definitely a positive. But too many pubs in one location is not a good thing either. But because Waterford is very unusual of the towns that we surveyed, in that all of the pubs and restaurants are in kind of one place, and there's a lot of takeaway outlets and all of that, so they weren't actually included in the scoring. We looked purely at the retail area, and this study would suggest that's quite an intelligent way for a city to have developed, where all of the retail and the shopping is in one end of town, and the pubs and the restaurants are in the other end of town. And it means that when you're out and when you're shopping, you're not sort of surrounded by closed up takeaway outlets that only open up at night. So there's kind of a daytime area and a nighttime area, so that worked in Waterford's favour, and that was one of the positives that we looked at. We did find Waterford has a disproportionately high number of mobile phone and internet shops, which are we counted those as a negative for public health, just because we're also reliant on our phones, and that's something that probably impacts on our ability to communicate with each other and to develop, those kind of nice face-to-face interactions. We've a high number of barbershops and hair salons, as anyone who's walked around Waterford in the last couple of years can tell you. They're not a negative in themselves; they're actually a positive. But too much of anything is bad. So in the scoring, we added a kind of a way of if there's more than 5% of the shops on the street are the same type of thing, so if more than 5% of them are hair salons, then it actually becomes a negative.
And then one interesting thing if people remark on if they come into Waterford City Centre, butchers. There's quite a few butchers.
We have a huge number of butchers, more than anywhere else that we surveyed as well. So we do have a cluster of butchers.
Are they positive or negative?
Butchers were neutral, actually, because we liked the fact that you go there and they're an independent shop and you probably just buy what you need if you go to the butchers versus going to a big out-of-town supermarket. You probably have a face-to-face interaction, but then some of the research suggests that eating too much red meat is not good for you. So butchers, I think, were neutral. Greengrocers and fruit and veg shops were a positive.
What's your own personal view if you were involved in, we'd say, if you were the city manager now in Waterford, you were Michael Walsh, and you said, OK, let's look at Waterford City and let's look at the next 5 years. You have obviously the public realm aspect of things. You mentioned in the article about Waterford Crystal, you've got the Mall, the Apple Market, that area down there. Waterford City Centre, still a quite small city centre. You go up Parnell Street, kind of out of the city already.
It's very walkable.
It is very walkable. What's your view? Like, should there be any aspect of reintroducing cars, or is that a no-no at this stage? Is that debate gone?
Yeah, I think that's a no-no. And one of the things that we did badly on, actually, and that dragged down Waterford score a little bit, was the high number of vacant units. And vacant units are a negative for any town centre. So, you know, if I was in charge, I would be looking at a way to incentivise people to come in, set up pop-up shops. I would love to see more. One of the things that came out in all of the interviews that we did in this was the importance of like street festivals, organic farmers markets, you know, and we are quite good at like live music. There's brilliant programme of live music all summer long in Waterford, but I'd love to see more of that continue. And we are doing things like Winterville is fantastic, but it'd be great to see more of that and more happening all summer. So, you know, things like, and there's a little farmers market in Waterford one of the weekdays. I can't actually remember which one, but I've passed it. But I think it's Saturday, isn't it? That kind of thing is brilliant. But I'd love to see those vacant units being put to good use. And I just think we need to take a look at rates came up in every single town we looked at.
Yes.
We need to take a look at incentives for people who want to start a new business, who want to move into one of those empty units, who have an idea, who want to try something out. I think we should be really encouraging them, because an empty unit sitting there is doing nothing for the health of the town. It's doing nothing for the people's outlook. And
it brings down people's expectation. They go into town and there might be a lovely shop just 2 doors down, but in their own mind they think, oh, I'd like to see another shop there or something, because in some people's minds it limits their idea to go out and talk to other people and say Waterford's a great place to shop.
And another big bugbear of mine is litter. And I think, you know, the work that's being done in the apple market now, I live in Johns Hill and I walk into town most mornings, and I walk down through Johnstown, and I get so depressed walking down through Johnstown. And, not, you know, like we could do obviously street painting and that kind of thing. And places like Lahinch have given grants to homeowners to repaint the front of their houses, which has made a huge difference to the town and to people's feeling and their relationship with the town.
That's a very good idea.
But as I walk through town, I'm literally walking over takeaway cans, you know, brown paper bags that were full of someone's curry last night. It's disgusting. Then you get into the apple market and it's usually cleaned up by 9 o'clock in the morning, but I'd love to see that extended and have the whole town looking really clean. I think there's another survey out today where Waterford performed quite well in city centre,
yeah,
Limerick and Galway,
with Ibal, and then parts not so much. I know the council workers get out and about as much as they can. They talk about resources and all that sort of stuff and getting all those streets done. Is there enough shopping variety?
I think anyone will say no. You know, I think, you know, especially somebody like me who loves to shop, and I'm dying to spend my money locally, but there's just not enough choice. I end up shopping online, which I don't want to do. And, you know, the move towards online shopping is what's having a negative impact on towns and villages around the country. It's destroying the main street. So, you know, I'd love to see the big international brands coming into Waterford. I think we're all hanging on for North Quays and hoping that that's when we'll have our Zara and our H&M and everything. There's not enough, but at the same time, I do think we have some great shops. We've got some fantastic independent retailers, lots of which I do shop in, I do spend my money in, but I think they need more support. They need more advantageous rates, and they need to. I think the City Council needs to look at doing something with the empty units and making sure that we have a vibrant space and somewhere for people to congregate, places for people to go where they don't necessarily have to spend money. But you know, coffee shops are a fantastic amenity for every town and village.
Jennifer, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to be getting a few texts and comments about that. I know it's one of those topics that people have really, really big opinions about. We only have one fruit and veg shop, Curvix in Ballybrick, and none down in the city centre. We need more of these shops down in the city centre. There's a very good example of what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, more restaurants and cafes, I think, with more healthy choices. Yeah, maybe that's something that we can become known for. One of the things that we found in the survey was that places that kind of adopt an identity, like Lahinch has its identity as the surfers town and the healthy town, really do well, and it brings a bit of life to the whole town. So maybe Waterford should start looking for getting behind maybe a healthy eating drive.
Good idea. Keep your texts and comments coming in, 083 333 975. And also, if you have any texts and comments about the old hurling and the football.
It's a whole new conversation. Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
With thanks to Mulligan's Pharmacy. Over 60 years together. Thanks to you.
Hey, now, what you gonna do about me?
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
Thanks to Mulligan's. With 17 stores across the southeast, there's a Mulligan's Pharmacy near you.
Now, keep your texts and comments coming in. Irina has phoned 051 846 123, who says she's spoken to a lot of friends, old and young, and finds the biggest problem in Waterford is the paving in the streets. Why can they not put smooth paving in the city? I know it looks nice, but the soles of my feet pain with the irregular paving, especially if anyone's walking in heels or the elderly. Another person has texted to say, we need open markets. People love these open markets. It's great for meeting people and new people, chatting about food, different clothing and stuff like that here. We've so many products here in Waterford, fish from Dunmore, veg, fruit, fresh from the farms. We should be promoting those more in the city centre. Person has texted in, smears for cervical check should be brought down to 25. I'm 23 and I have been diagnosed with having CN3 cells since I'm 22 because my doctor referred me, and we're going to try and talk to this lady on the line later on in the programme. We're also going to be talking about Rockall and about Irish fishermen, so keep our texts coming in about that. And also doctors, have you anything to ask Jeff Plant? He's going to be talking mainly about vaccinations, but any questions you have about him. Now, we are joined in studio by Gavin Whelan, but first we're going to play a little clip from Ken McGrath. This is Ken McGrath talking on the Sunday game last night about Waterford hurling.
Waterford hurling is in your soul and your DNA, but it does seem to be in a bad place at the moment.
Yeah, look, it's strange. I suppose you hear people saying last night and today, look, at least the team showed pride and a bit of heart, but that should be a given when you're on the Waterford jersey. Like, I think that's kind of nearly a bit sad that we got bet by 13 points and people are kind of half happy down in Waterford that we had 100% commitment, which the boys did show. But that should be a given every single day you throw on that jersey, you know. And look, this didn't happen now, and this is not all Porrick's fans' fault by no means. We've won 4 out of 20 Munster Championship games in the last 9 years. If that happened in Tipperary or Cork, there'd be uproar. So why are we any different? Why do we think any less of ourselves than them counties who we'd good success over the years, like especially Cork? We loved playing Cork before. And you go up and you're kind of getting met by 13 points and you're kind of like, I don't know where we are. And I just can't see it changing very fast, you know. We're winning very little games underage. We didn't win a game in the minor again this year. I think it's 2 wins since we last won the Ireland in 2013. We're under a bit of pressure, big time, and something needs to happen. I'm not talking about a change of management. I'm talking about the structures underage and find out where is it going wrong. How are we not getting the quality player that will actually make a difference inter-county level? That's what I'm saying. That's the big question, really. How are we going to get that back, you know? Because right now, we averaged and lost by 13 points in the Championship Division. I think it was 8. Our average loss last year, I think, was 8 points. So this is happening going back a few years as well. There's a perception out there that we were very successful over the last 10 years. We haven't won a Munster Championship since 2010. So I don't know where the success is.
We don't know where the success is. I'm joined now by Wayne Hutchinson, former senior hurler with the Waterford Hurlers and also long-standing player with Ballygunner. Good morning, Wayne.
Good morning, Damien. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good. Thanks for joining us this morning, Wayne. Wayne, what's your view of, firstly, the match on Saturday evening, how they played against Cork?
I suppose Cork had a lot more to play for than ourselves, you know, going up there. I was really hoping for we get a performance out of the lads, and in fairness, we probably did in patches, but obviously Cork pulled away in the end. But I suppose it would have been, as a player, it would have been quite difficult going there, knowing that you're only really playing for pride and playing for pride, really. So it was always going to be a difficult task, because obviously, as you know, Cork are going very well at the moment. So overall it was disappointing. But sure, look, we just need to get behind the lads now and move forward and try and look forward to 2020.
Yeah, obviously it's been a very difficult 4 weeks in particular for Waterford senior hurling, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes. How do you assess the situation? Like, you'd be fairly close with a lot of the players, and what's your view of what's going on?
Yeah, look, before I say anything, you know, none of us really know what is going on inside in the camp, because none of us are in that camp, you know. So I remember, and I'm sure past players will tell you as well, when you're involved with a county setup, you're so engaged in it that when you come out of the setup, the last thing you want to be doing is talking to your club mates or talking to family about what's going on behind the scenes. Absolutely. But look, I'm like yourself, Damien. I'm now a Waterford supporter, and obviously I want to see the lads doing well. So until I hear something concrete or what is going on, I can't really comment on it because I don't exactly know. But what I do know is I know Pat Carney, I know James Murray, I know Padraig Fanning. I've worked with all the boys, I've played with the lads, and I know that they are serious boys, like, you know, and their heart is in Waterford, you know, and I'm sure when they took their job that they went in and they gave absolutely everything to that job, you know, and unfortunately it just hasn't worked out this year. But I'm sure the lads as well at the same time are after learning a lot and taking a lot from this year going forward into 2020. So again, I do think that we need to give them an opportunity and we need to get behind them that bit more, because it's easy for us as supporters or past players to knock this and knock that. But I think it's more important now that we get behind the lads more than ever.
Would you expect any changes in the coming months? It looks like Padraig Fanning will be staying on. Would you expect some players to be brought in, new players to be brought in, some other players to go?
Yeah, maybe, like, you know, I suppose, like, when you look at players going, maybe the Brick will decide to call day in his career. I'm not too sure. You've older players then like Kevin and Noel who have absolutely been fantastic servants to the county, but that's going to be a decision. That's going to be a decision for the lads. I think it should be made. It should be made on their terms because they've been such good servants, like, you know. I suppose it's hard to say who's going to come into it because there's still obviously a county championship a club county championship to go through in for the remainder of 2019. So I'm sure Padraig and the lads are going to be out there and trying to assess new talents, maybe try and take one or two lads off the current minor team that are playing at the moment, and then obviously we have an under 20 championship coming up as well. So he might look at that, and we might see one or two players emerge from that. It is very, very hard to say yes what will happen.
And do you think there should be a look at the structures? Ken McGrath was talking about it on the telly last night, the underage structures, and an entire kind of review of where we're going.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was actually watching Ken on the telly last night. He made a great point on what he was saying. I definitely think there needs to be an absolute review on the whole structure and how exactly we're developing our players from under 12 all the way up to under 20. So we're creating the type of player that is going to be ready to play senior Munster Championship at the age of 19, 20, because as you know, Damien, the age profile now of players is absolutely dropping massively. So you need to be ready now. You need to be ready like Kyle Hayes of this world, Keane Lynch. They were all ready to play senior hurling at 19, 20 years of age, and their conditioning and their power and their speed and everything. They had it all like going in, like, so. You're not going to go in in Waterford at say 19 and 20 and then trying to develop. Have a look at the whole games development. What is actually going on in games development? I know there is a lot of good work going on, but do we need to invest? Do we need to get more coaches into the weaker clubs in the county? Do we need to get more coaches into our schools? No, that's what we really need to be looking at. The quality of coaches that we're getting in at under 12, under 13, under 14 level. What past players are getting involved in coaching? Now, when I say that now, I know for myself, because I'm involved in coaching myself up in Dublin, it is pretty hard to go in and get involved with a team because of the amount of time that it takes to actually do the job. And you need people who are going to do the job properly. If you look back to the under 21 team that won the All-Ireland a couple of years ago, you would Cogs Gorman involved. He won under 21 with Waterford. You had Paul Flynn, absolute legend of Waterford hurling. Owen Kelly involved. You know what I mean? There are three good lads that actually done it at that level. You know, so they're the type of quality of people that we need to try and get involved in our setups going forward.
Wayne Hutchinson, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Cavan Whelan, you heard Wayne Hutchinson there. What do you think?
Yeah, look, where do you start? First of all, like, difficult couple of weeks, Damien, you know, difficult 4 weeks for Waterford hurling supporters. And, you know, again, like, you know, from club point of view, and from only playing club level, and I know a lot of the lads personally, like and the management as well. Like nobody is more hurting than themselves, but there's something hasn't clicked in this Munster Championship. We can't be after falling that far off the ladder. Contested an All-Ireland final in 2017, good league campaign. The vibes were good after the training camp, and just since that day against Clare, like the wheels have fallen off the wagon. There's been the passion which Ken McGrath showed in that jersey. He alluded to it last night. I didn't see any passion this year in any of the games.
There's a county board meeting tonight. All the indications are at this stage, and talking to people behind the scenes, is that Pádraig Fanning will be staying on for another year.
Yeah, well, look, he's been appointed on a 2-year term, and he was speaking the other night, and he's keen to see it out. And you know what I mean. To be fair, like Derek in his first year didn't have an overly hectic first year. There was a lot of maybe mistakes made. They went back and they reviewed it. So to be fair, I think Pádraig is a really, really passionate hurling man, and he was absolutely gutted. Like seen his interview on the Sunday game last night that things didn't work out. Pat Carney, James Murray, 2 good hurling lads with him there. Do we need maybe an extra couple of bodies in there to give a hand with maybe the skills level, the fitness? We seem to be physically. I think we were bullied in a lot of the games this year. We need to up that stakes. I thought our fitness levels were kind of a little bit down in the championship, which was kind of surprising. Cork the other night, like Limerick last week, just walking the balls out of defence unchallenged. That's not the work rate and energy that we associate with Waterford teams. Just didn't seem to be there. Whether that's a hangover from Derek the new management trying to adapt their policy, who knows? It's just really hard to put your finger on it.
It is very hard, and people that know better than us even find it very hard, because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Like, there's so many rumours going around about players are going to be leaving and this, that and the other, and only time will tell what exactly happens. Others, people texting in then saying, how do you expect to develop talent in hurling for hurlers when an underage, when there's only play hurling in 1/3 of the year? Others saying that players have been mollycoddled. Others saying that the county board is the problem. The East-West divide, this East-West thing, the divisions again. So people questioning, when defeats like this happen, they question the entire structures.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's a fair look. Everyone is really, really passionate about like GA in the county and that, and I see it myself from being involved with county squads the last couple of years and whatever, and we're all doing our best for Waterford, but Ken made a valid point about the structures underage, and the stats don't lie. Was it 4 out of the last 20 games we've won in Munster? We haven't won a Munster final since 2010. Minors this year, 1 point on the board, although they were competitive in all the games. Now let's be fair about that. You know what I mean? They weren't hammered, but again, just maybe with a bit more maybe positive approach, they could have won a couple of those games. So those stats like don't make pretty reading. Like, and like this year we had a worse scoring average than what Carlow had in Leinster this year. Like, which was, I think Neil McManus made that point in the Sunday game yesterday, which doesn't make pretty reading. Let's be honest, the stats don't lie, and there needs to be a serious overhaul. But Wayne made a good point about GDAs. Like, we've just 3 of them in the county. Like, is that enough? Do we need to maybe spend more on
a GDA?
Well, games development administrators, like going around maybe to schools and clubs that are struggling.
Only 3 in the county.
3 in the county, yeah. Which now, look, obviously they're full time. They're employed and they're doing great work. I know the 3 of them personally, and coaching in
but
games.
But if you got 6, if you got 12,
yeah,
if you
absolutely. Well, we'll argue. Do we have the money for that? Then is the next thing, So that's the question there. Like, but getting past players involved, it's a big commitment too, and players are busy outside of GA too. It's hard, but needs to be probably a maybe whole overhaul, maybe from maybe say under 14 up, 24 still up, about maybe the county jersey. First of all, maybe the club level and the coaching that's going on at club level. Do we need to maybe coach our coaches, take them up to that particular level? Because I hope we're not gone that far back, but just reading those results and looking down the line, like, and being out in defeat, seeing from a refereeing point of view, and I've gone around, I've seen a lot of games over the years that we're off the mark at the minute, and slowly we're moving away from the likes of Cork and Tip and Limerick, who we were always competitive with, always.
I know we've got a lot more to talk about. We can't talk about it just now because we are up against time. I've also got Dr. Ed Coughlin coming on from Cork to talk about the psychology of what we've just been discussing. Special mention to JJ Hutchinson. You'll be talking about all these issues on the programme tonight and later in the week. JJ is announced
retirement. Brilliant service, fantastic ambassador to the football, and you know what I mean, great to his club as well. So hopefully have him in on the show on Saturday as well. We'll be hearing from hard luck to Benji and the lads, because look, I know it will be 7 points is a poor return, penalty shout there they're looking at to get, but put in a fantastic effort, great progress made in the league, and he's ready to put in a good structure for next year and hopefully hit that Division 4 campaign strongly. Damon,
stay with us. Gavin, thank you.
Thanks.
Join the WLR conversation on Twitter using hashtag Déise Today.
With thanks to mulliganspharmacy.com.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
Thanks to Mulligan's. With 17 stores across the southeast, there's a Mulligan's pharmacy near you.
Now, keep your texts and comments coming in 083 3333 975. We're joined now by Dr. Ed Coughlin. Good morning, Dr. Coughlin.
Good morning. How are you, Damien?
Good, Ed. Thanks very much. You're a sports scientist, lecturer and the skill acquisition specialist. You write a regular column in the Examiner newspaper, a superb column. You were writing recently about every team needing a momentum killer to have a fighting chance, and particularly regarding the Waterford-Limerick game 2 weeks ago, and then we obviously had the game at the weekend against Cork. How would you psychoanalyse Waterford hurling as it is at the minute?
Psychoanalyze, I'm not too sure how I would. That wouldn't be my domain. But as far as just what I suppose the rest of us see, I see a team that for me need time. I think it's anybody who's involved in coaching would probably tell you it's quite a thankless job, let alone if you're involved as a manager, and even less so again if you're a senior intercounty manager. So I think first and foremost, Pádraig Fanning deserves time to allow him and his philosophy to take place and to get bedded into whatever the change is since Derek McGrath was in. I do recall Derek McGrath himself experiencing some pushback from the public when he first took the reins a number of years back, and then of course with time he won people around because he had time as well to work on what he wants to do from a coaching philosophy and a playing philosophy.
Yeah.
So I think first and foremost that's what I think that is maybe needed. I do think though from the column that you speak of, where that came from was just when we all, for a lot of us who watch a lot of sport and engage in sport, there are sometimes you see situations arise where you feel if there was just a change in momentum as such, or a change in the play just to knock the opposition off their run, it might help. It might give the team who are under pressure a little bit of breathing space. And I would see that a lot of teams don't spend that time in their training environment to work on these type of scenarios. They tend to spend more time working on their strengths, which is fine, but then you have to You've got to think about those unthinkable things, and the more prepared a team can be for those situations, the better they'll be able to respond in the moment.
And how long then do you stick with a manager or a player? If a manager wants to put a player in a particular position and it's not working for him, he tries another position. County Board puts a manager in place. How much time do you give people? Because this balance between time and results effectively is the crucial thing, because if the results aren't going your way, time then becomes pressurised.
Absolutely, and that it's a difficult question to ask. It's almost that classic, how long is a piece of string? I think more so than anything else, there needs to be a greater understanding for people on the outside looking in that the intricacies of any setup are just that. It is a very difficult and complex environment to work in, because there's so many personalities at play and so many different histories that are feeding into the current situation. Players who are there for a long time will have their own philosophy. Players who are coming in, new players, and how they'll bed into the system, let alone a new manager coming in with his change in the coaching personnel and so on and so forth. Again, the reason the GAA is so strong in some aspects around their managers is that everyone gets their period of time. It's not like in soccer, especially in the Premier League, where managers can have a very quick turnaround. Because again, yes, it's high performance sport, but there is a big difference between professional sport and an amateur sport where people are giving up their time voluntarily. And I think that has to be taken into consideration in a situation like this as well, so that people, it's a huge honour to I know, and I'm speaking not as someone who has experience of managing at an intercounty level, but it must be a huge honour for someone to manage at an intercounty level, and they do deserve time to let their ways be embedded into the system, as I said already. I think right now where Waterford are at, I think it is very easy to cast aspersions on what they're doing. But we also have to take into consideration what is also happening with other teams.
Yes.
Limerick are experiencing a huge wave of of positivity right now and how they're managing themselves, but it hasn't been that way all the time.
No, it hasn't.
But things go in cycles.
Dr. Ed Coughlin, thank you so much for joining us this morning. There's so much more we could talk about. We're just caught for time. Dr. Ed Coughlin, keep your texts and comments coming in, please. And we have a lot more coming up just after 11.
Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
Thanks to Mulligan's. With 17 stores across the southeast, there's a Mulligan's pharmacy near you.
Now, welcome back to the programme. We are going to be joined by Hugo Boyle on the line. Are you there, Hugo? You are?
Good morning, Damien, to yourself and your listeners. Yeah.
Good morning. Just hold the line there now, please, because we'll come to you in a second. Firstly, a quick note also on our competition. Text in the word where the Imrana Festival of Travel Writing is taking place, and you can win 2 tickets for Sarah Outen. The tickets are worth €25 each. Keynote speaker at this year's festival. Also, a special mention to everybody who's texted in 083 3333 975. A lot of texts are still coming in. We will be reading out those texts in this upcoming hour, and all the calls that have been coming in as well regarding the different issues. We also want to give a special mention to Dr. Jeff Plant is going to be coming in from the Kyo practice. So if any health queries, please text us in a question regarding something to do with that. And what are you going to do with your children over the summer if they're out on their holidays? We'll see how it goes. Now, firstly, we're going to talk about a really important topic that is exercising the minds not only of fishermen but also politicians, how they're going to deal with Rock All. Hugo, you might remember this song.
Remember that Britannia well. She rules the waves no more. Keep your hands up, Rock All. It's Irish to the core. Oh, Rock all, you never fall. For Britain's greedy hands, or you meet the same resistance like you did in many lands. May the seagulls rise above your eyes, and the water crush your shell, and the natural gas will burn your ass and blow you all to hell. Oh, rock all, you never fall.
Rock on, rock all. Now we also have a clip of Michael Creed, who's the Agricultural Minister, saying the government is in talks to de-escalate the situation. And Sean O'Donoghue, CEO of the Killybegs Fishermen's Organisation.
In the event of Marine Scotland arresting an Irish boat, then we would exhaust all the legal options available to us to defend our interests and that of those individual fishermen on that basis. So that would mean obviously assistance to the individual in terms of legal advice, but also exploring the international forum where we could prosecute our view of this issue.
When we were informed about this on Friday, it came as a total shock and a surprise to us, and something we certainly won't accept, because as far as we're concerned, we're legally entitled to be there, and if we are detained or told to leave the area by the Scottish authorities, this is an illegal act, and we will defend it to the highest court.
Defend it to the highest court. Hugo Ball, you're CEO of the South and East Fish Producers Organisation. What do you have to say about the situation regarding Rock All?
Well, first of all, Damien, I concur with what Sean said there. This came as a bolt out of the blue. It came as a bombshell as far as we're concerned. We got the 4 producer organisations were summoned on Thursday night to attend a meeting with the Minister on Friday. We weren't made aware of what it was about. We were left in the dark. We were actually told that we couldn't be told until the meeting. And that was actually the case. Nobody knew until we went into the room what this was about. So the Minister and his officials proceeded to tell us that the Scots had indicated to them the previous week that from the 7th, which was last Friday, that they were going to enforce a fisheries, a 12-mile fisheries limit around the rock, and that any vessels other than UK vessels that were in that particular area would be detained and basically arrested on jurisdictional grounds.
Now, for people that don't know, Hugo, just to remind people, Rockall is this rock that's up there, way up past the northern coast of Ireland, halfway, I suppose, to Iceland. It's disputed. In other words, nobody, it hasn't officially been put down in law who owns it. And this is very important because if there is a designated owner for a piece of rock, an uninhabited piece of rock, then there's an exclusion zone of 12 miles around that for fishing rights. So Scotland, i.e. Britain in the past, has said that this is their rock. We have always said, no, this is part of our fishing rights. So because it's disputed, Irish fishermen have continually, as long with the Scottish fishermen, fished around the area. And now it's coming down. It seems to be a very specific reason because of Brexit and because of the implications of Brexit. The Scots have basically been told, let's see how far we can push this, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. First of all, yes, this rock, this has been a disputed rock, and not alone between Ireland and the UK. Both Denmark and Iceland actually lay claim to the rock. We, Ireland, being the sheep that we are sometimes, actually never actually did lay claim to that particular rock. And in 1972, the UK actually enacted the Island of Rockall Act, which they said that claimed the rock on the basis that they actually annexed the rock in 1955. Now, going on from there, in 1982, the UN Convention, the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, actually says that rocks which cannot sustain human habitation or economic life of their own shall have no exclusive economic zone or continental shelf. Obviously, this at this particular time is a strategy by Scotland, I suppose, the UK, their Scottish administration, who have responsibility for fisheries since in the devolved government in Scotland. And I think this is actually probably an embarrassment to Whitehall in London, especially with the negotiations with the EU and Brexit negotiations continuing and will continue, I suppose, for quite a while. This is another distraction that they can actually probably do without. But the Scottish fishermen, the SNP, who were actually here last week, looking at a hand of friendship, by the way, that they wanted the SNP's policy is to remain in the EU. And now they seem to actually, I don't know whether Nicola Sturgeon has any control over some of her ministers, namely George Ewing, obviously, who is the minister up there that actually is dealing with this, whether they're currying favour, and I'd say they are currying favour of their Scottish fishermen, obviously in peripheral areas, to see that they're going to lose votes up there unless the Scottish fishermen actually are able to retain their own fish in their own waters and stay in control of them. Now, the Irish vessels have been fishing there for generations. I mean, I've been fishing for longer than I care to remember, but I remember well the Gillybegs boats coming back in the late 70s and early 80s with quite a lot of fish from Rockall. And they fish every year. Irish fishermen actually fish every year. And believe it or not, even though we are, our main base is in the southeast, we actually had a boat in Rockall on Friday inside the 12-mile limit. And I had to make them aware of what was transpiring. Now, the government's policy is at the moment, and Michael Creed has actually said it, that they're not advising vessels to leave the area. And I can see why, because I suppose if vessels leave the area, they will cede, I suppose, some sort of legality to the claim that Scotland are making there at the moment. So the government are not actually asking the vessels to leave, but who wants to be the first vessel? So we had to make our vessels aware. As it turns out, one of our members, the member that I spoke to on Friday, spoke to him again this morning, and their vessel is still up there. Hopefully, if nothing happens. But if it happens, you heard Michael Creed saying there that they will give all assistance possible to them.
We're looking at a very serious situation developing, Hugo, because do you think this is going to escalate?
Oh, I think so, yeah. I think so. I mean, if there's a vessel detained, first of all, I wouldn't want to be the first vessel detained. The first vessel detained, it will be a diplomatic incident over it, I'm quite sure, because obviously they'll be taken in, they'll be bonded, and even though the government have said that they will give full legal and financial support to any vessel detained over a jurisdictional offence, the wheels of government turn very, very slow. The legal wheels turn very, very slow, and your vessel could be there for quite a period of time.
Absolutely, and it's a test case. It's also a test case. This is a test for Ireland now in terms of its defence of fishermen, for example, because the government has come in for criticism. So many governments have come in for criticism since we joined the EU about giving away fishing rights and all that sort of stuff. So here is a very specific test relating to Brexit, relating to fisheries, relating to how this is going to play out. So,
absolutely, and we've had a very recent, I suppose, argument in both in the courts and in the Dáil. And I mean, I'm talking about a few months ago, where as to be good neighbours, as the Minister had said, we actually enacted the Weissenage Agreement, allowing UK or Northern Ireland vessels to fish right up to our baselines, which on the east coast actually is the shore. And this was done in good faith, as good neighbours, etc., etc. And here we have what in effect is the government's goodwill, which, as you say, we have been giving away stuff for ages. The government's goodwill, the government being kicked in the teeth.
Yeah,
and that is actually a fact. I mean, it's something that we weren't in favour of, given allowing anything to happen here as far as good neighbourliness was concerned, until at least Brexit was sorted out and the London Convention, which is due to expire now next month, in the month of July. That we didn't want anything done to that, but the government rushed through the legislation, allowing these Northern Ireland, the UK vessels into the shore, into the baselines, and now we have not a counterclaim, but a claim to on Rockall, which actually has no, I suppose, can't just sustain life. Here we have them imposing a limit around it. Now that I know absolutely, yeah. If they get away with the 12-mile limit, what they're going to do, what will naturally they'll do then? Once Brexit comes in, actually they will look for their 200-mile economic zone around it. And here, we might as well give them Tory at that stage, or some of our islands as well. That's really what I see. I mean, that's what
that's the implications of that, yeah. Hugo, I'm going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. Hugo Boyle, CEO of the South and East Fishery Producers Organisation, regarding the stance regarding Rockall fishing rights row. We are going to hear more about that, and more than likely we're going to hear a lot more of a song that the Wolf Tones wrote all these years ago, and Sean there, who works in WLR and Aldry, hadn't heard the song before. So especially for all those who want to hum along to Rockall. Rock on, Rockall.
Remember that Britannia well. She rules the waves no more. Keep your hands off Rockall. It's Irish to the core. Oh, rock on, Rockall, you never fall. For Britain's greedy hands, or you meet the same resistance like you did in many lands. May the seagulls rise above your eyes, and the water crush your shell, and the natural gas will burn your ass and blow you all to hell. Oh, rock on, Rockall, you never fall.
WhatsApp Damien now on 083 3333 975. Déise today on WLR.
Thanks to Mulligan's. Make life easy. Pull into Ireland's only drive-through pharmacy at Mulligan's Arkeen.
I made no promises. I can't do golden rings, but I'll give you everything.
Déise today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
Thanks to Mulligan's. With 17 stores across the southeast, there's a Mulligan's pharmacy near you.
Now, welcome back to the programme. We have a lot more coming up still in the programme. We're going to be talking about Parents and children. What to do with your children for the summer if they are on 9-week school holidays. Also, Jeff Plant is coming in. Please keep your texts coming in about what questions you'd have regarding medical matters. Speaking of medical matters, we have a lot of people who are surgically dissecting the issue of Waterford hurlers. As I said, we didn't get a chance to talk about the footballers this morning. On the issue of the Navy, Damien, we don't have a Navy to protect Irish fishermen around Rockall. There are 4 boats tied up in Cork sometimes with not enough crews to man the ships, and that is from Richie. Hi Damien, we were beaten out the gate in our last 3 matches, beaten by an aggregate of 51 points. This is regarding the hurling. These are the same players that have minor and under 21 on Ireland's and reach a senior final in 2017. Clearly there's a problem with their management, and that is from Declan. Damien, I totally agree with Ken McGrath. Every word he said was true. I follow Waterford everywhere, and basically he's saying that I saw something this year that I never thought I'd see before. Waterford players having mollycoddled, says this person, over the last few years. It's very hard for a new man to change the attitude. Others are saying, what do you expect if you don't have enough hurlers playing enough hurling at a younger age? Damien, we need to get hurling people looking after underage hurling in Waterford. That's the way to dumb it up, get it sorted. Matt has texted in, Brian Flannery summed it up on the sports show on Saturday. Root and branch review from under 12 up. Our minor results in recent years have been dreadful. Others saying we don't have the financial clout behind us. That's no one's fault. That's something that we need to do. Finance is a huge player in this day and age, and that is from Noel. Now we are joined by Siobhan O'Neill. Are you there on the line, Siobhan?
I'm here.
How are you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks very much for joining us. Siobhan O'Neill White from mams.ie, the parenting website. 9 weeks of school holidays looming large for parents and bored children. We had Jennifer O'Connell on from the Irish Times earlier. In some people's minds, when you mention school holidays, it just sends a shiver of terror down their back, doesn't it?
It does, and I have 2 teenagers. So one of them is here at the moment because she's a first-year teenager in first-year secondary, and she's just, can I go, can I have, can you do? So she's driving me mad already. And the other lad is doing his junior cert, so he's not annoying me yet, but he will be next week. And then the 2 little ones will be out at the end of the month, and all hell breaks loose because you have 4 to entertain.
You have to kind of plan your entire sort of summer in terms of parents around the children's holidays, don't you? Because you have to try and think, well, you want to try and take a holiday yourself. It's a good time to take it. And then you've got the whole issue of child minding. You've got grandparents being pulled in, neighbours, relatives. And then the children hear of other children going away on holidays. And they are sitting at home thinking, why amn't I doing that?
Yeah, well, go and ask the government about that one. I'm not going to answer that question. But there's loads of things, there's loads of places you can go, and there's loads of things that you can do. And you know, you don't have to spend an absolute fortune. So if you have, you know, kids of all ages, a really good place to go when you have kind of kids, you know, from babies up to teens is Fota Island Resort, because they have everything. There's a fairy wood, there's the hotel, of course, but they also have cottages. So if you want to make it a little bit less expensive for yourself, you can still stay on the grounds. And then, of course, you're attached to the Fota Wildlife Park as well. Then Cove is just down the road. Kinsale is just down the road. Actually, Cove is fabulous. We went and did Spike Island last year. And to sell the mobile phone service is really bad over there, which is the best thing because our teenagers had to get off their phones for the day. And we absolutely loved it. That is a brilliant thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So that's a good one. If you're looking for a family break and you're on a budget, there are places and there are good deals. Look around, you will find some good deals. There's a hotel on the East Coast, if you fancy coming up a little bit near Eastmead, the Village Hotel in Bettystown, and they're right beside the beach. And I was looking for the best deals I could find. 2 adults, 2 kids, 2 nights with breakfast and a dinner and access to a pool and stuff is €335. That's very, very, very good. So that would be on the other end of the scale if you are on a budget.
The other thing, Siobhan, is this idea, I suppose, you can use the summer holidays. It's very simple to reconnect with your children.
Oh, God, definitely.
Literally,
definitely.
Just get on the bus, go out to Tramore, go down to Ardmore, wherever it is, go down onto the beach, bring a packed lunch and spend it.
The best thing.
Yeah, and just reconnect and talk to your children.
What we would do with the kids is we would bring, obviously you have your buckets and spades and everything. So the beach, when we go to the beach, we bring buckets and stuff, and we get the kids to collect seashells. And then we come home, and when we have a day where they're bored and we want to do something, I set them up outside in the back garden. I give them the seashells. They wash them, they dry them, they paint them, put a bit of newspaper down. This takes hours to do. Then they let them all dry off, and then we'll go and buy a cheap, colourful tumbler in Tesco or Deals or something like that. And hey presto, there's a gift for Granny. And it's a cheap. Every parent has paint and things around the house, so that's a really, really cheap activity, and kids actually love that. They love to do baking, and also if you are going to take your kids out, so like there would be special things that we will do with our kids. So like things like say Viking splash tours, things like that. You know, you're going to take them out, or the wax museum, something like that. I will say to my children, okay, so we're going to go and do that on Thursday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I want you to help me around the house on Monday. And then Tuesday, I want you to help me clean the car. I make them work for it. And we should be making them work for it, because you're going to take them out and you're going to spend money. And of course they deserve to have a lovely day, but I try to get my kids to earn it a little bit. And I think there's nothing wrong with that.
That's a good idea, very,
so
very good idea.
And they're not being totally spoiled. And if you are going to go up to Dublin and you have teenagers, places like the National Concert Hall in Dublinia is very good. It kind of has a macabre vibe going on, and teenagers love that. Things like the Viking Splash, I brought the granny on that, and she absolutely loved it. There's loads of things that you can do. I mean, look, Waterford has so much stuff going on, but sometimes you might want to go, you know, out of that area. We went over to Portumna Forest Park last year, and it's completely free. You bring a picnic, you walk around, and the amount of animals and birds, and it was amazing. The kids were climbing trees. We were running after frogs. So, you know, there's actually loads of free things that you can do. You don't have to be constantly running around with them to places that...
No, you don't.
Cost a fortune. And I know we've got Centre Parks coming this year, and they've got some indoor stuff going on. But there's loads of hotels down around Waterford area. You've got like Amber Springs there in Wexford. Everything you need is in one place. So if you do have small children, a hotel like that is good because it's contained. Everything you need is just there. So, you know, the parents, you can get a little bit of a rest because they have kids clubs and things like that. But this summer, you know, I'd say let the kids have a bit of freedom as well. Go to the beach, go for your nature walks. Even I like to go for a run on the beach, and I get the kids to come with me. And I say, okay, they can time me, or they'd be saying, Mommy, drop and give us 20. They think it's great. They're like little sergeants. They are behind me, telling me what to do. Get your kids involved. And also, not just to leave them with the grandparents. I try to bring the grandparents. And we try to make, you know, we went to Airfield Estate. It's up near the Dublin Mountains last year, and brought the mother. And sure, myself and herself did the zip line, and the kids thought it was the funniest thing. And they're still talking about it. So again, it doesn't have to be a big, expensive thing. There's lots of things that you can do. You know, that you can involve the whole family. There's also loads of festivals going on this year. The Fun Fest is on in Taylor Park at the end of June, and that's specifically a family festival. So there's music and activities and things going on. And it's just, you know, it's really aimed at families. It's very inclusive to children, because a lot of festivals are not really inclusive to children. Yeah. So I think it's good that we have one that actually is. And then you might want to send them to a summer camp. I try to find summer camps that are a little bit different. So this year my kids are going to a summer camp where they're going to learn how to make a movie. So you'll know most kids now, they have tablets, iPads, and they're little whizzes when it comes to YouTube and making little movies and stuff. So my kids are going to star camps, and they're actually going to learn how to edit and make a movie. So it's like they're going to actually learn something, but they're going to have fun. And that's a nationwide camp. I think that's a good one if you have a child who's a bit creative.
Yes, absolutely.
And then another kind of a quirky camp is Bricks for Kids, where they learn through STEM learning, so science, technology, through the use of Lego play. And that's nationwide as well. So they're learning like science and maths and engineering, and they don't even know that they're doing it, because as far as they're concerned, sure, they're just playing with Lego. Siobhan
O'Neill-White from mams.ie. I know there's a lot more up on the website, mams.ie. Please check it out. Thank you. Free. Thank you very much for joining us this morning as ever. Siobhan O'Neill-White from mams.ie. Great to hear from you there this morning. Keep your texts and comments coming in about what to do with your children over the summer. Also the texts coming in about medical matters. Dr. Jeff Plant is up next.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
Thanks to Mulligan's. Join Mulligan's Blue Club today and get points every time you shop in-store or online at mulliganspharmacy.com.
I'll be riding shotgun underneath the hot sun, feeling like a someone.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
Thanks to Mulligan's. With 17 stores across the southeast, there's a Mulligan's pharmacy near you.
Now, welcome back to the programme. Thelma has texted in, Joe, Waterford Joe, I love summer holidays. No school runs, lie-ins, slowing down and having picnics everywhere. Watching the clothes drying is better than Prozac and buckets of ice cream. There you go. Damien, who is that super mum you had on a few minutes ago? Her easy answers are so utopian. Get back to the real world with two parents working full-time. Get real. Does that woman know how expensive it is to travel to Dublin to go to the Phoenix Park to see the animals? And summer camps cost a fortune. I think we should get the kids to wash the car, says Pat. Now, what would you do with the children for the summer, Jeff?
Oh, Janie Mackers, I've got 3 of them and it's coming up fast already. They're looking at me going, what are we doing today? It is tough. I mean, fairness, it is tough when you're... myself and my wife are both working. It is, you have to really plan the summer out to
get them to do stuff.
Yeah, plenty of camps. Yeah, plenty of camps. For us,
and the camps are expensive. That's the thing as well, but you want to get... And this idea that children feel that they have to be doing something, whereas sometimes if you can get it into their mind, even for a while, just slow down and do nothing.
Yeah,
the idea of doing nothing for a child is anathema to their whole way of lifestyle at the minute.
Even this weekend I'm like out up to the green, play, and they, in fairness, they're going up there, but that's the best when you see them up playing football with each other on the street. Or
God be with the days when children would stand at street corners and just watch the world go by. I remember I used to stand at a street corner in Newtown and Kennedy, and the trucks would be going past, and you'd do the signal to let the truck driver pull the big horn, and you get so excited that he pulled the horn as you're going past. You're oh, genie God, that's how sad I was as a child. We're going to talk about a number of medical matters now. Dr. Jeff Plant, thank you for joining us.
No problem.
You're GP based at the Keogh practice in Ferrybank. Vaccinations first. Tell me about vaccinations.
Okay, I just thought I'd bring it up as a topic. It's one that's in the news, very regular. I'm particularly talking about childhood vaccinations now, but there is an overlap with the cervical vaccination, one that was controversial in the last few years. So it's one that's in the media a bit, and it's a topic that I think the science is winning. I could be wrong on that. I hope the science is winning. When we talk of medicine these days, we talk about, I guess, different words are used. Conventional medicine, Western medicine, often used. But the word I'd definitely use is evidence-based medicine. So when we recommend something to someone, we try to see, is there evidence, good research, and there's a whole level of research that we look for, as in there's different levels that we recommend are better than others, and certain articles that would only publish if the evidence is high. So when we recommend something, we are usually recommending because there's evidence is there behind it. Okay, not always, but it's there. And this is the great thing about, I think anyway, about medicine and science at the moment, is even when they prove something, they will then be ongoing research to say, is that proof still solid? Okay, so this is going on all over the world. So it's not hocus pocus stuff. So vaccinations, child vaccinations in particular. They went through the mire, still is. The reason I'm bringing it up now is I think there was a measles outbreak in New York. Very serious stuff, okay? And in Ireland, measles is on the up again. I know in the UK it's 10% increase in the last year. 10%. That's incredible, okay? So we're talking about childhood vaccinations overall, okay? The big one that was linked with in the 80s is autism, the MMR vaccine. It's a common one. I think it gets phoned in here a bit, Damien, as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the reason why that came out was Wakefield, I think most people know this fella's name at this stage, came up with a small research, 12 cases only, and that's very, 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 very small. Very difficult to prove anything with 12 cases. Now, he's since been disproved. I think there was other factors, motivations, biases, why he produced that. So he had 12 cases and stated that there may be a link between MMR vaccine and autism. It's now well proven. It's absolutely not. And the science is sound to this. It's not hocus pocus, makey uppy, or people with government agendas or anything like this. It is real and it's vitally important, okay? It is not linked to the autism. MMR is not linked with autism. And the big study that has come out, there's been loads of them, but the one in the last few years is from Denmark, 650,000 children, okay? And they still said there's no link with autism, okay? All right, so that's number one. I think we're winning that battle, okay? Could be wrong. Number two, you hear that there's harmful ingredients in it. And even there was kind of in fashion about 5 or 10 years ago for parents to walk into me and say, I want them done individually. Okay, so we give vaccinations. The parents are out there know there's 6 in one and there's 3 in another. So there's lots of diseases all in the one vaccination. There was a fear that aluminium, when you get a vaccination, you got the actual ingredient in it, which is usually a bit of the vaccine or a bit of protein that looks like the vaccine. And then there's preservatives in it, which you have to have, or else the vaccine goes off after a few days, or it gets contaminated or infected, which is even worse. So there was a fear about aluminium, okay? And that is in tiny amounts in some of the vaccines. Having said that, I think the research has shown that the aluminium you get exposed on a daily basis through water and sitting in sinks, through food, natural amounts is higher than you're going to get in the vaccination. So
you shouldn't have to worry about it.
No, don't worry about that. Other kind of myth out there, the natural immunity is better. So getting exposed to diseases is better. Now, there's actually a good side to that. So I spend my winters talking to poor old parents who have one virus after the next and the poor children, okay? And it is building up their immunity, Damien. So it is important that they get exposed to all these viruses because it builds up your immune system remembers. It actually has a memory. So when you get exposed to 10 flus today or viruses, your immune system remembers ones you've had from 15 years ago and kills them off quicker. So as a child, you do build up your immune system, hence they get all the bugs going, okay? But they vaccinate against a certain number of diseases for a reason, because they are killers, okay? They can have serious consequences if you don't. So the measles, mumps, rubella, Haemophilus, influenza, these are, actually there was a case I think in the media last week of someone who got Haemophilus influenza epiglottitis, a very serious condition where the throat swells up this used to be commonplace before vaccines. Kids would die of it all the time, and it's come up. And that child, that parents, I spoke very well on an interview saying, we did it because of the negative social media campaigns against it. So these diseases are vitally important.
I know
they save lives.
I know it's not a disease per se, chickenpox. My children, this lady says, girls aged 9 and 7 have never had chickenpox. Should I vaccinate them?
Great question. Not on the vaccination schedule at the moment, okay? Now, the good side, yes, but that's an important disease.
Can you still get a vaccination for chickenpox?
There is one available. You have to pay for it. Okay, good question. It is.
What would you recommend?
I'll be honest. I vaccinated mine. Okay, so there you go. I made that decision. It is available, I think New Zealand and Australia, it changed about 2 or 3 years ago, included. So it comes to a very deadly chickenpox. You have to look at how serious it is, what damage it can do. So in general, most kids get chickenpox. They're fine. Okay, thank goodness. So measles, mumps and rubella can cause more severe consequences. Now, most kids who get measles, mumps and rubella are fine as well. So just in case anyone's out there who has recently had it. But there is a small amount who can go on and get encephalitis, a severe disease of the brain. Now, very small proportion, but you can vaccinate and get rid of that. So chickenpox in general isn't linked with much. You can get ear infections in a few weeks afterwards, pneumonias. Most people don't. Most kids don't, thank goodness. So it's one of those delicate balance one where is there a risk, is there benefit? So
let's just pause for 30 seconds.
No problem.
And we'll take more questions and more about vaccinations. Keep your texts and comments coming in, please. And just briefly, we brought our 17-year-old son to Dublin to see museums on Saturday. €108 for a return on the train. The three of us, never again will I use the train. I'll drive everywhere I go, but still I'd have to pay parking in Dublin. So what to do with your children? Keep the texts and comments coming in. Persistent back pain on the left side of the shoulder. Now, we'll talk about that, Jeff.
Join the WLR conversation on Twitter using hashtag Déise Today.
With thanks to mulliganspharmacy.com.
Déise Today with Damien Tiernan on WLR.
Thanks to Mulligan's. With 17 stores across the southeast, there's a Mulligan's pharmacy near you.
Now, welcome back. We still have Dr. Jeff Plant. He's staying with us up until 12 o'clock. We got a text in from Mick. Hi, Damien. I'm here with my 12-year-old daughter who's just finished first year and thinks it's hilarious that you'd bring a teenager out and pick up shells from the beach and painting them. That's from Mick. Mick in the city. Best of luck with that anyway. Make all the good with that. Tell us a little bit more about the vaccinations before we go into a few more specific questions,
No
Jeff.
problem. Just one more quick point about vaccinations. To get rid of a disease or to keep the disease quiet, you need 95% of the population to get the vaccine. Okay, so this is an important factor. There is always a small proportion of children and adults who can't get it for whatever reason, due to rare inherited immune diseases or on chemotherapy, and you need 95% of the population. So you taking it, okay, you, of course, parents have to make a decision about their own child, but you're actually looking after the rest of the population. You're looking after those at risk, and it's a vital thing to do. I think, as I've said at the beginning, I think we've won the battle. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but there's a lot of social media activity still. I understand that President Trump may actually be an anti-vaccinator, which is incredible stuff. But I think he's gone quiet on that, though.
And some people have argued against vaccinations for religious purposes as well, or they might be claiming some sort of issues there with that. But that's another topic. Just
to reassure everyone out there, childhood vaccinations are extremely important. Extremely. They've got rid of diseases that use the child mortality rate just after the wars was something like 8 or 10% at 6 months. This is incredible. Nowadays it's 0.0 something percent. And even at that, if a child passes away, there's an inquiry and quite rightly, and we need to find out why. But this is what these vaccinations have done. Now, hygiene and stuff as well, and improved standards of living. But these are important, guys. And the science is good. They are safe. Get your children vaccinated.
Get your children vaccinated. Okay. Caller, I'm 69 years of age, on blood pressure and cholesterol tablets, but all else is fine. I have diverticulitis. Wondering if Jeff can give some advice, please, on foods to eat or foods to avoid.
Okay, great question. So what is a diverticularitis? It is it's the lower bowel. It's called a colon, okay, which is we call it the larger bowel, but it's just because its width is larger. And as you get a bit older, even at your age, Damon, my age, even now, you develop little outcrops. They're like little mushrooms that pop out of the bowel. They're perfectly fine. They don't do any harm. Yeah. But they can get infected and inflamed because bits get deposited in them, and when they do, you can get a lot of pain and discomfort in them. So most people, if you do a camera test into them, let's say in the age of 60, you're going to have a good few of them even at that age. So diet, high fibre diet is very, very important to keep everything moving. So lots of fruit, veg, fibre, lots of water, plenty of high fibre cereals, the wholemeal, more breads, that kind of stuff. Avoiding pips. Okay, so if you can imagine, it's a little outcrop. What they are is little outcrops of a bowel, a little mushroom shaped, and they can get blocked. So pips that don't get digested very well. Seeds. A lot of people, seeds are usually quite good for you. There's protein and stuff in them, and the health shops would be promoting them now. But a lot of them most of them get passed through, but they can get lodged, and that's where they can cause infection. So avoiding pips and seeds.
Anne has texted in, I feel a bit giddy sometimes. Giddy head and eyes feel dizzy. Again, that's very little information there, so it's hard to make any kind of... It
is, I mean, giddy's actually a great word. It's not one that's used in medicine, word, it's an old English word, and actually it was in the driving guidelines were changed about 10 years ago, but giddiness was still in it. If you suffer from giddiness, you couldn't now. So sorry, I don't want to make fun of that poor listener, but giddiness is very non. I think she probably means dizziness and lightheadedness. Dizziness and lightheadedness can be due to so many different things. Very difficult. I'd need a lot more detail there to even comment on what it could and couldn't be. It's common enough for people to suffer from it. Most common things is your blood pressure going a bit low or vertigo, but I couldn't answer more than that.
Mary's texted in, my adult son constantly has a stuffy blocked nose and sometimes finds it hard to breathe. What can he take for this? He's tried Otrivine nasal spray, but it hasn't worked.
Right. Okay, your regular listeners would know Otrivine and decongestants, whether inhaled or tablet, are not a good answer to this, okay? So my ear, nose and throat colleagues in the hospital will spend their time telling people no more of that, because what actually happens with them, they're great for a day or so, but then they start causing the opposite. They actually cause inflammation in the nose. And so as soon as you stop taking it, your nose really fills up and you think, oh, you need more. And it's a vicious circle. So you can't get them over the counter in America. You'll be in big trouble for getting it. I think that's for other reasons. So just quickly, what can she do? If he's sneezing or an allergic element to it, there's over-the-counter antihistamines or steroid nasal sprays such as Beckinase, that kind of stuff, and sinus rinses. Now, this is one. It's over-the-counter. It's very, very safe. They're usually salt water kind of rinses you make up and you snort up the nose and spit out the mouth. Really, anyone who's got a regular blocked nose, it's really important to do that, no matter what the cause is, because you can actually clear it and then the medicines you can take will penetrate better and get there easier. So sinus rinses.
A lot of people texting in about cramp. We were talking about it just off air. I've been suffering cramp in one leg most nights for several months now. Anything I can do about it?
Okay, it's a common question. Cramps in legs. We're talking about nighttime cramps in legs. Now, people, just little word of warning, people who get severe pain in your calves on walking up hills or stairs on a regular basis, you walk up the same hill and you get pains in the legs and it goes away when you rest, that's something different. So just be careful of that. They should be checked out. Cramps in legs at night. Kids can get them, pregnant ladies can get them, anyone can get them. Why people get them? They just don't know. Are they linked to anything nasty? No. So that's important for your listeners to know. They're not linked to anything nasty, but they're devil. And people know you shoot out of bed and you stretch. So athletes will get them if you've been swimming a lot or you've done a lot of exercise recently. So what can be done? Keep well hydrated during the day. Calf stretches exercises. Now, it's difficult for me on a radio to show you how to do them, but if you can look them online, literally, even on YouTube, calf stretches and strengthening exercises, particularly before you go to bed, can prevent them. And quinine. Quinine is a natural thing in tonic water. Another
person has texted in to say this person drinks quinine sulfate, drinks tonic water, takes magnesium, but the cramps are still horrendous.
Yeah, now that's a more serious. By all means, talk to the GP about what. I know. Already I can say we don't have a lot of ammunition there. We can try other things, but it would be really hit or miss. The research is poor. How's that? We were talking about the science earlier on. The research into this is poor. Quinine.
For those that are not that bad, quinine
is good. It's in tonic water. You can get a glass now. Some people then go, oh, can I take the gin with that? No, I'm not saying that. The quinine is in tonic water. There is a tablet version of it as well. It's safe enough, but not as safe as the tonic water. A glass of tonic water in the evening time can be very helpful. But for that listener who's taking all sorts already, calf stretches, they can look up that online, calf stretches exercises, but may need a visit to the GP to give a little bit more information.
We've a couple more questions. We're going to put them up on the website just afterwards. So a couple more questions just to come up there with that.